So in this session we are going to solve some of the problems using the very basics Newton's law of viscosity. Like, think this problem has been solved in the handout. Think we have an oil film over which a block of mass capital M is sliding, and it's typically the same two block connected to a pulley problem. This block has got a mass M, gravity is acting downward, oil film, this is the oil film, whose viscosity is mu. Now the first question, when the block moves with speed v, calculate the expression of viscous resistance force. Resistance in force term. Right. The block area which is in contact with the oil is A, and that's the geometry given. Now see, if I just elaborate this situation, this is the oil film, and here we have the block, and let's say this is y coordinate, this is x coordinate, and the height is h. Right? So definitely the oil film thickness is pretty low compared to the other characteristic dimension of that system, like under root of area. Like we can write that h is much smaller than the under root of area. So under root of area may be the characteristic dimension of that system, and which is much smaller relative to the thickness of this oil film. Now under this situation, here we can assume linear velocity profile. Right? So here the velocity u is equal to v. Here according to the no slip u is equal to 0. So this is the typical velocity profile we can think of, and we can write that du dy is equal to uy at h minus u at y0 divided by h minus 0. So it is simply v divided by h. So tau yx, the shear stress, y is the direction of area, x is the direction of force, is equal to mu into this du dy. So essentially it is mu v by h. So F, the frictional force, Ff rather, so it is tau yx into area, so that is mu v a by h. So Ff, the final expression, is mu v a by h. So that's the first question. The second question is, derive the differential equation of block's motion. So now you see, if I have to derive this equation, basically we have to apply the Newton's law of viscosity. So you see this is the block. Here let's draw the free body diagram. This is Ff, this is the tension of the cord. So you can write that T minus Ff is equal to m into a, where a is the acceleration. Now we have to replace this T. And how we can do that? If I consider the free body of this falling mass, here we have mg, here we have T. So mg minus T, the acceleration will remain the same. So this must be equal to ma. So T is equal to m of g minus a. So essentially if I replace it, that m of g minus a minus ff, which is mu into v into a divided by h, must be equal to m into a. So if you group this together, so m plus small m into a plus mu a by h into v minus of mg is equal to 0. And a, the acceleration due to gravity in terms of this coordinate system, we can write that this is equal to d square x dt square plus mu a by h into dx dt minus mg equal to 0. So at t equal to 0, this x is equal to some x naught. So this is one condition, and at t equal to 0, so definitely some dx dt that's equal to 0. So with these two we can solve and we can get the how x is changing as a function of time. Right? So this is the differential equation of the Planck's motion. So next, if I change the geometry and redefine the similar type of problem, let's discuss this problem. It's a problem associated to this viscometer, right? So what sort of viscometer it is? Let's consider this problem. Right. So concentric cylindrical viscometer. I'm drawing this. There is a pulley and a falling mass. The mass is m. This is moving with velocity vm, right? Omega, this much of radius is r, small r. This is capital R, this height is h, the gap is a. These are given. So what is the statement? The statement is a concentric cylindrical viscometer is driven by a falling mass m connected by a cord and pulley to the inner cylinder as shown. The liquid to be tested fills the annular gap of width a and height h. So here we are having the liquid. Let's say its viscosity is mu. So the liquid to be tested fills the annular gap of width a and height h. After a big starting stanchion, the mass falls at a constant speed vm. So what we have to do? We have to develop an algebraic expression for the viscosity of the liquid in terms of what? So we have to derive mu as a function of m, g, then vm, then small r, capital R, a and h, but not in terms of omega. Omega we have to solve, right? So under this situation, this situation, if you see from the sectional point, top view, so it looks like this. So now, let's say the radial coordinate is r prime because r has been already used, and at this point, let's say the fluid velocity is v theta. So what we have to note that if it rotates with a speed omega, so at this point it will be moving with v theta equal to omega into r, and at this point here the v theta is 0. So actually again we can assume a linear velocity profile. As the gap A is much smaller than r, we assume linear velocity profile, and linear velocity profile we are assuming. So dv theta dr prime will be equal to, I am only considering its magnitude, we are not actually interested in sign because already we have dropped the minus sign in the Newton's law of viscosity. So dv theta dr prime is omega r divided by a. Here it is omega r, here it is 0, so omega r minus 0 divided by the gap a. So tau here, see the direction of area, actually the shear stress is acting on a fluid surface which is just like cylinder concentric to these two cylinders. So the direction of area is r, direction of force will be tangential, that is theta. So my indices will be tau r theta, and that's equal to mu into dv theta dr prime, and that is mu omega r here prime, no, omega r divided by a, because omega r is the velocity here. And the frictional force is 2 pi capital R into h, that is the area, into mu omega r by a. So you have got an expression of the frictional force in terms of omega. Now the point is, see, if the inner cylinder rotates with omega, this is also rotating with omega, and this falls with the mass Vm. So here also we will have a tangential velocity Vm. So it's obvious that Vm omega into r is basically equal to Vm. And oh sorry, here it should be capital R. I've done a mistake because this radius is capital R. So this should be capital R. So we have got the expression for Vm. Now in this system we cannot go by this force balance because it is a rotating system. We have to go by the torque balance. So the torque balance actually will give you, say here I have a tension. So this tension here, this, if I do it, it's a tension. So this is the force. So force with respect to this R will create a torque on this object, that is T into R, T into small r, right? Whereas the frictional resistance, the force is Ff, which is at a distance capital R, and that will be equal to I into d omega dt, where I is the moment of inertia. That is the torque balance. Now the point is, we have to calculate the viscosity, where after certain initial transient this block of mass m is moving with constant velocity. So it is a steady state. So under steady state, d omega dt equal to 0. So if d omega dt is equal to 0, t into small r is equal to ff into capital R. Now what is t? If I draw again the free body of this falling mass, the mass is capital M, so its weight is mg, and here it is t. The acceleration is 0. So t is nothing but mg under steady state. So m into g into r. Now we'll substitute this expression. So 2 pi r cube. So here it's r, here r, and here r. 2 pi r cube into h into mu into omega divided by a. Now omega is equal to Vm divided by this small r. So mgr is equal to 2 pi mu r cube h by a into Vm divided by r. So Vm becomes mgr square into a divided by 2 pi, mu becomes 2 pi r cube into h into Vm. So please check this and let me check it out again once again. So dv theta dr prime is omega into capital R divided by a. So tau r theta is equal to mu into omega r by a. Fine. So this is 2 pi r into h mu into omega into r by a. So that is a frictional force. And Vm, this Vm is equal to r into omega. That's also fine. And finally we have got this, right? So this is the system, and actually instead of force balance, the difference is instead of force balance we have used the torque balance over here. So next we'll go for another system, though it is cylindrical, but it's a bit different from the system here what we have described. The diagram is this and so what is the statement? A proposal has been made to use a pair of parallel discs to measure the viscosity of a liquid sample. The upper disc rotates at a height h above the lower disc as given. The viscosity of the liquid in the gap is to be calculated from the measurement of the torque needed to turn the upper disc steady. So the torque we are giving here, this is to be expressed as a function of viscosity, and we can solve our problem, right? So viscosity, what is the statement? The viscosity of the liquid in the gap is to be calculated from the measurement of torque needed to turn the upper disc steady. Obtain an algebraic expression for the torque needed to turn the disc, and yeah, that's all. So here you see that at this point the velocity v theta is 0, and here if you see it from the top view, so it is somewhere, the point is somewhere here. So you see that at this upper disk, this is upper disk, the velocity v theta will be omega into r. It is tangential, that is inward to the plane of the board. Right? Now this r is the distance. So what we can note that v theta is progressively increasing from 0 value here to the maximum value here. That is omega into capital R. So point to point the velocity is changing. So if I have to calculate the frictional resistance, frictional force, and therefrom the torque, we have to go for a differential balance because the velocity is changing. So before going into that, let's calculate what will be the indices of the shear stress. The area on which it's acting is having perpendicular along z direction, so area direction is z. The force is acting along the tangential direction, so force direction is theta, and that's equal to mu into dv theta dz. So dv theta is omega into r, and this is h. So you have got tau z theta. So tau z theta, what we note that it's a function of r. So it's increasing, it's changing. So we have to calculate the torque by differential analysis. So what we will do? We will consider a strip between this r and r plus dr. This is r and this is r plus dr. So over the disk, the frictional force will be tau z theta into 2 pi r dr, and the differential torque will be dff into r, because over this slice, if the force is dff, the respective distance is r, so if you multiply the force by the distance, I will get the torque. So dff into r. So now if you replace, it will be 2 pi r square into dr, and here we are having mu into r into omega divided by h. So it is 2 pi mu omega r cube divided by h dr. So that is the differential torque, and next we will simply integrate it. That is 2 pi mu omega by h 0 to capital R r cube dr. So it is capital R to the power 4 by 4. So it is pi into mu into omega into r to the power 4 divided by 2h. So that is the torque required, and if I can measure the torque, we can calculate the viscosity provided we know this rotational speed. So we have solved these 3 different problems of 3 geometries using the Newton's law of viscosity and using the linear velocity profile. And this linear velocity profile type flow is called Coutte flow, right? So this Coutte flow means the respective velocity COUTTE. So Coutte flow means the respective velocity profile is linear. Okay. So with that understanding of the basics, we will now move on to this conservation equation, where we are going to apply this conservation equation on something which is called control volume, and that control volume is of finite size. So basically our name of this topic is integral control volume analysis. So this will be integral control volume analysis. So here we are basically going to apply the different conservation laws to that system, right? So we must have a brush up of the conservation laws. Now before that, we must understand that what we are actually defining as a system. So system, you see, it's the classical thermodynamic system. What is that? A definite amount of easily identifiable mass. A definite amount of easily identifiable or detectable mass, right? So for that, what are the conservation laws? The conservation laws, first, conservation of mass. What is that? The mass of a system cannot be created, neither it can be destroyed. So dm dt system, we can write this is equal to 0. Because mass of the system is fixed, and once it is fixed, it can never be actually being generated or it can be destroyed. Mass cannot be destroyed or created. Second, conservation of linear momentum. What is that? The total force being applied on a system is equal to the rate of change of total momentum of the system. And the total force actually in fluid mechanics, we can write it as sum of body force and surface force. So what is body force? Body force is something which can act without any physical contact, like gravity, electrical force, etc. Whereas surface forces acts by a contact, like stress, shear stress, normal stress, or the normal force, shear force, etc. So that is the surface force, shear, normal force, etc. So that is the conservation of linear momentum. 3. There are definitely conservation of angular momentum, but we are not discussing it as we are not going to use that. Conservation of energy, and that is nothing but the first law of thermodynamics, and it states Q dot minus W dot equal to dE dt system, where E is total internal energy plus total kinetic energy plus total potential energy, right? And Q dot is positive. We will consider when if heat is given to the system, and W dot is positive if work is performed by the system. Now one thing before we stop, it's important to note that all these conservation laws, 3 conservation laws we have discussed, and all the conservation laws on one side contains this time derivative of some explicit property like total mass, total linear momentum, total energy, which is the sum of internal plus kinetic plus potential energy. Now you see that if n is any arbitrary extensive property which depends on mass, and eta be the respective intrinsic property, then n is equal to integral over the mass of the system eta dm, or alternatively we can write that integral over the volume of the system, V dagger or V cross we are using to represent volume in order to differentiate it from velocity. So eta rho dV, right? So n is extensive property, eta is an intrinsic property. Now what are the extensive properties here? M. So you see, first case, M, the total mass of the system. It's what? Integration over volume of the system. It's simply rho dV. So if n is equal to m, eta is equal to 1, according to our notation used here. Now, total linear momentum, integration over the volume of the system. What we are doing? Consider a system here, and we consider a small differential volume which has got a velocity v and its density is rho. So what is the momentum? Momentum will be rho v into dv. So it will be the integral of rho v dv. So if eta or n is the total linear momentum of the system, eta must be the velocity vector. And finally, E, it's equal to small e rho dV, right? Where small e is what? This total energy per unit mass. So small e is equal to small u plus v square by 2 plus gz, right? So that is the internal energy per unit mass. And this you can understand that v square by 2 is the kinetic energy per unit mass and gz is the potential energy per unit mass. So if n is equal to E, capital E, eta is equal to small e. So that is the notations we are going to use, and these three conservation laws we will see in the next session, that how we can apply it for a system and to generate the governing set of equations wherefrom we will get the hydrodynamic properties of that system. Thank you.